Hey there! Welcome back to another episode of the English Everyday Podcast. Now, I've got a question for you. What's one thing you've always wanted to do but keep putting off? Maybe it's learning English, starting a new hobby, or even just organizing your desk. Sound familiar? Well, today's topic might just give you the push you need. If you don't start now, then when? It's one of those questions that makes you stop and think, right? And don't worry, Dave, Sophia, and I are here to make sure this episode is fun, relatable, and packed with helpful tips. Plus, here's a little bonus for you. We've created a free PDF with vocabulary and tips from today's episode. You can download it right now from the link in the description. So, stick around because we're going to dive into why starting today, not tomorrow, is so important. And of course, I'll be back later to share some key phrases you can use to sound more confident and motivated. Over to you, Dave.
Thanks, Marco. Okay, Sophia, let's start with this. What's one thing you've always wanted to start but kept delaying?
Oh, Dave, I have a long list. But let me tell you about the gym story. I'd been telling myself for years that I needed to exercise more. I even bought cute workout clothes to get motivated. But guess what? They stayed in my closet, tags still on, for months.
Oh no, let me guess. You kept saying, I'll go tomorrow?
Exactly. Tomorrow turned into next week, next month, and eventually, never. I just kept making excuses, too tired, too busy, too everything. But then I saw this quote, "If you don't start now, then when?" It was like a light bulb moment.
Isn't it funny how a simple quote can change everything? I had a similar moment with cooking. I used to live on instant noodles and takeout. I kept saying, I'll start cooking next weekend. But you know what happened?
Let me guess. You didn't?
Exactly. But then one day, I burned my instant noodles. Yes, I somehow messed up instant noodles. And I thought, okay, Dave, this is ridiculous. You need to learn how to cook.
So what did you do?
I started small. My first dish was scrambled eggs. Not fancy, but it was a start. And you know what? That small step gave me the confidence to try more recipes.
That's so true. Starting small is key. It's like learning English. Some people think they need to be perfect right away, but it's really about taking the first step.
Absolutely true. Like, instead of saying, I'll wait until I have more time, you can say, I'll start with 5 minutes today. It's all about momentum.
Totally. I mean, even with this podcast, I was nervous at first. I thought, what if I make mistakes? But you and Marco encouraged me to just start. And now it feels so natural.
And look at you now, killing it on the podcast. Speaking of Marco, let's bring him back in. Marco, do you have some phrases or expressions our listeners can use when they're ready to start something new but feel a bit unsure?
It's vocabulary time with Marco.
Absolutely, Dave. And I love that you both mentioned starting small because that's such an important part of the process. Let's dive into some practical phrases you can use when you're ready to take that first step. Here's the first one. I'll give it a try. This is a great phrase to use when you're unsure but willing to make an effort. For example, if someone invites you to try speaking English, you can say, I'll give it a try. Next up, I'm taking the first step. This phrase shows that you're starting something, even if it's a small step. It's perfect for those moments when you need to remind yourself that every journey begins with just one step. And one of my favorites? Better late than never. This is a great way to encourage yourself or others when starting something later than planned. For instance, if you've been meaning to practice English for months but only started today, you can say, better late than never. Now, here's a quick tip. When you say these phrases out loud, try to sound confident. Even if you're not feeling 100% sure, speaking with confidence can help you feel more motivated. All right, back to you, Dave and Sophia.
Thanks, Marco. Those phrases are gold. So, Sophia, which one of those phrases do you think you'd use the most?
Definitely, I'll give it a try. It's simple and feels less overwhelming. Like, I don't have to be perfect. I just need to start.
Same here. I also like I'm taking the first step because it feels like progress, even if it's small.
You know what, Dave? I think a lot of our listeners can relate to this. Sometimes we build things up in our heads and make them seem harder than they really are.
So true. And that's why starting small is so powerful. Like, if you're learning English, just start by listening to this podcast every day.
Or reading one short article or practicing one new word. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about taking that first step.
Exactly. And remember, listeners, if you ever feel stuck, just use one of Marco's phrases to push yourself forward.
And here's another tip. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. When you start something new, it's normal to stumble a bit, but that's how you learn.
Oh, I totally agree. When I first started learning English, I was so scared of saying something wrong, but then I realized that even native speakers make mistakes sometimes.
That's true, Sophia. I mean, think about kids. They learn by making mistakes all the time. It's how we grow.
Exactly. And here's a phrase I always remind myself: progress over perfection. It's better to try and learn than to wait until everything feels perfect. Because, let's face it, perfect doesn't exist.
That's such a great mindset, Marco. And I think it applies to everything, not just learning English.
Totally. Like when I started cooking, I burnt so many dishes in the beginning, but you know what? I got better because I kept trying. Now, I'm no master chef, but I can make a decent pasta.
See? That's the beauty of starting. Once you take that first step, you realize it's not as scary as you thought.
And each step builds confidence. Whether it's cooking, learning a language, or starting a new habit, the key is to keep going, even if it's just a little bit every day.
Absolutely. And listeners, here's a challenge for you. After this episode, think about one small step you can take today. It could be learning a new word, writing a sentence in English, or even just saying, "I'll give it a try."
And don't forget to celebrate that step. Even small progress deserves recognition because it's bringing you closer to your goal.
That's right. Small wins lead to big changes. So, what will your first step be? Think about it and start now.
All right, that's it for today's episode. We hope you feel inspired to start something new today, whether it's practicing English, picking up a hobby, or just trying something you've been putting off. Remember, if you don't start now, then when? And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. We'd also love to hear from you. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, let us know in the comments.
Also, check out our playlist designed to help you improve while you're sleeping. Yes, you heard that right. Learn English even in your sleep. The link is in the description, or just click away this middle screen. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.